The base sat under a hot, silent sky, dust swirling in every direction. Just another nameless outpost on the edge of the world, surrounded by open desert and shadows that never seemed to leave. The soldiers moved in their usual rhythm, boots pounding gravel, vehicles rumbling, radios crackling. Everything felt normal, quiet even. But that kind of quiet never lasts long in places like this. In the middle of that controlled chaos stood a canvas med tent, beige and unassuming. No barbed wire, no guards, no weapons stacked outside. Just one small hand-painted sign, medical, nailed to a wooden stake. That's where she worked. The girl no one talked much about. Everyone just called her Document, or sometimes the med chick. She didn't wear rank patches, just a name tag. Simple. She kept to herself mostly, always inside the tent, always. Doing something, wiping down tools, sorting supplies, checking vitals, stitching cuts. When soldiers came in with scrapes or heat stroke or blisters rubbed raw from their boots, she treated them without saying much. Her hands moved quickly, efficiently. And her eyes, those were different. Quiet, cold, but calm. Always calm. Some of the guys joked about her. Probably a field nurse fresh out of training. Bet she's never even heard a bullet crack. They didn't mean harm. Just regular base talk. The kind of stuff people say when they don't know what else to say in the middle of nowhere. But there was one soldier, Private Mendez, who once watched her reset a dislocated shoulder while the guy screamed bloody murder. She didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Wrapped it, iced it, gave him something for the pain, and moved on like it was just another Tuesday. And maybe that should have been the clue. The way she didn't react. The way her eyes didn't change when blood started flowing. But nobody thought much of it. People like her were background characters out here. Necessary, sure. But not central. Not the kind of person you expected to see under fire. Until the day everything changed. It was supposed to be a simple recon and supply mission. 2 transport trucks, 6 soldiers, checking an old comms relay post about 12 miles outside the perimeter. Routine. They'd done it a dozen times before. Everyone figured they'd be back in time for chow, but barely 20 minutes out, the radio snapped alive. This is Bravo Unit. Taking fire. Ambush, repeat, ambush. Heavy contact, 2 down. We need. The signal broke off into static and shouting. The base jumped into motion. Officers scrambled to triangulate their position. Reinforcements were scrambled. Weapons were prepped. But inside the med tent, she had already moved. No one called for her. No one ordered her to go. But she was already slipping on a tactical vest, packing a trauma bag, locking syringes and gauze in place. She didn't wait for backup. She ran. The Humvee she took barely had fuel, but she drove it hard. Dust kicked up in clouds behind her. Her eyes didn't blink once. Her hands gripped the wheel like she was chasing something she'd lost long ago. And maybe she was. She reached the site before anyone else. Smoke hung in the air. One of the trucks was on fire. The other had been flipped on its side, half buried in the sand. Bullets still cracked in the distance, scattered, but close. The sound of screaming cut through it all. Real screaming. Not panic. Not fear. Agony. She didn't freeze. She didn't stop. She ran straight into the open. There were bodies. 2 soldiers lay slumped behind the flipped truck. One was moving, barely. The other wasn't. Another man was. Sitting upright, blood soaking through his shirt, pressing his hand to a wound in his side. She dropped beside him. Checked his pulse. "You're good," she said quickly. "Can you hold this?" She shoved gauze into his hand. "Press hard." She moved to the next. A tourniquet was needed. Fast. She tied it with practiced speed. The bleeding slowed. She grabbed an auto-injector of morphine, hit the guy's thigh, and moved again. More gunfire. Someone shouted her name, but no one even knew it. Just Doc. Hey. Grenade exploded behind the truck, showering them with dirt and rock. The impact blew her sideways, but she crawled right back. No hesitation. One soldier reached for his rifle in a panic. "We're screwed," he screamed. She grabbed his collar. "You're not dead yet. Now help me lift him." They pulled one of the wounded into the back of the Humvee. She kept pressure on a neck wound with one hand while digging into her pack. With the other, blood soaked her forearms, her chest, her face. She didn't care. She worked out a bullet pinged off the bumper. Another soldier tried to fire back, but his hands were shaking too much. She turned to him, eyes sharp. "Breathe. Focus. We'll get out of this. And somehow, he did. She moved like she'd done it 1,000 times. Because she had. When reinforcements finally arrived, they found her covered in blood, kneeling beside a soldier whose pulse had just stabilized. Her hand was still clamped over his chest wound, her knee bracing his leg to stop the bleeding. Her eyes locked with the first responders, and she simply said, "We need 3 stretchers. 1 urgent evac. 2 stable. 1 gone." And just like that, she stood. Limped actually. She'd taken shrapnel to the shoulder. Hadn't even mentioned it. Back at the base, the wounded were rushed to the med tent. Everyone buzzed with confusion. Who pulled them out? Who stabilized them? Who ran into live fire without armor? One soldier, still half-drugged on morphine, whispered, "The medic girl. She saved all of us." That night, the commander pulled her file. Combat medic, 2nd Recon Battalion .3 deployments. Multiple field citations. Rescue under fire commendation. PTSD flag filed, but cleared. Transferred voluntarily to non-combat med. Support. She had once dragged an injured captain across open terrain under enemy fire. Had once used a sidearm to hold off a hostile during a field surgery. Had once, just once, been the only survivor of a convoy attack, and had still managed to pull 2 bodies from the wreckage before the fire took the rest in 01 knew. No one had even asked. She'd been there the whole time. Quiet. Steady. Invisible. The next morning, she was back in the tent, scrubbing tools. Shoulder bandaged, face expressionless. As if nothing had happened. One of the soldiers she saved walked in. His eyes filled with tears he didn't bother to hide. "Why didn't you tell us who you were?" She didn't look up. Just said, "Because I'm not her anymore. Not unless I have to be." Another soldier, the one who'd panicked during the ambush, placed a small patch on the supply shelf. His own. It read, "Santos." He tapped it gently. "You saved me. This belongs with you." After that day, no one ever called her just the med tent girl again. She was still quiet, still calm, still in the background. But now, every soldier who walked into that tent stood a little straighter, spoke a little softer, because they knew exactly who she was and what she could become if the blood started flowing again.